America's got a lot of cartels. We have to protect our country. We haven't been doing it for 4 years.
Earlier this year, the president came out with Tom Homan. They qualified the Mexican cartels as a foreign terrorist organization.
He's gonna wipe you off the face of the earth. You're done.
Hello everybody and welcome back to another video. Today we're going to be checking out US Marines wipe invaders off the map, uploaded by Cash Jordan about a day ago, August 17th, so I'm not sure when you guys are going to be seeing this, but yeah, about a day ago as of this point. I want to check it out. I have heard a little bit about what's going on the southern border of the US right now. I hear a lot of these human traffickers essentially have taken up a new profession, and that is crossing the American border with the intent of committing crime on the American citizens in the area, obviously along the border zones. This involves, from what I've heard, home invasion. You know, I don't think there's really many violent crimes taking place necessarily. It depends on the circumstances, of course. But, you know, at any rate, home invasion is not fucking tolerated. These are foreign nationals crossing the border, making off with American property. And this is a zero tolerance issue, I think, under the Trump administration. I think he's been very clear on his intent with the border. You know, I don't think this should be a surprise to anyone. In terms of what I've heard recently going on with it, I have heard talk of deploying military members to the border zones to patrol, and in some cases, you know, be proactive, I guess, on the situation of these people crossing the border. And I have heard too, I believe, of drones being deployed too. I don't know how true that is, or the talk of drones being deployed, at least at a minimum, suggestion of it. I think that's a pretty efficient solution to a problem you guys are having. I'm just going to say it now, very efficient. You know, I guess there's some concerns about the how ethical that is, I suppose. At any rate, listen, you know, attacks on citizens, it's not really tolerated, I don't think, nor should it be. So let's see what is in store in this video for us. If you guys enjoy, make sure you guys hit that like button, subscribe for more content from me. Of course, leave your recommendations down in the comments below. Without any further delay, guys, I say we get right into this video. We're gonna leave a like, captions on, quality 1080 sick, full screen. Without any further delay, guys, let's get it.
Fox News alert, we're at war. Cartels are now officially in the Pentagon's crosshairs. And it's not just the wall anymore. Trump wants to take the fight to El Chapo's front yard.
So President Trump has told the US military to get rid of South American cartels once and for all.
Interesting.
But progressive activists say taking the fight south of the border will just exacerbate relations with Mexico, who critics speculate is secretly fueling radical protests taking over America, while protecting the very gangsters who've made billions flooding our border with illegal immigrants for years. Until now.
I'm gonna be real. I'll just pause it right there real quick. I don't know about funding protests. I feel like Americans, no offense to you guys, a lot of your countrymen are just not the fucking brightest. I'll be real with you. And they protest issues that they know nothing about, protest for issues that they know nothing about. I feel like they don't, a lot of them do not need funding to go out of their way to do that, you know. Not saying it isn't happening. It probably absolutely is. Now, are foreign entities absolutely influencing American politics to a degree? Sure, why wouldn't they be? You know, that's just, I think that's anywhere, to be honest with you, at this point, sadly. But also, I will say too, yeah, very, very interesting there. An attack, a war, and that is what it is, you know. I don't know. I mean, Mexico is already a very corrupt country. That's been known about for years. You know, there's so much illegal corruption with the cartels, with the gangs, with everything going on within the government, within the police, within the military, by extent of that. And rooting them out, taking them out once and for all, you're not dealing with a religiously radical group. So I feel like it would be very possible, also with the proximity to the US that Mexico is, again, with the use of drones, with the use of, you know, a lot of your assets. I feel like, yeah, it'd be very easy, and there is little to nothing these cartel members could do to stop it, realistically speaking.
Our border with illegal
Not to pause right off the bat there, let's keep going.
Until now.
Javelin missiles are a lethal weapon in war, targeting the enemy from above where their armor is thinnest. The addition of this weapon has made this brigade one of the most modern and lethal in the United States Army.
Do you think it's worth sending our forces, our U.S. forces there to take this on?
Latin America's got a lot of cartels. We have to protect our country. We haven't been doing it for 4 years.
Earlier this year, the president came out with Tom Homan. They qualified the Mexican cartels as a foreign terrorist organization.
He's gonna wipe you off the face of the earth. You're done. We go on every op knowing that nothing's going to be perfect and that we're going to have to adjust. We've always targeted cartels. That's nothing new. That's one of our primary missions is going after the cartels.
Once again, President Trump continues to show his commitment towards the American public. This is what people voted for, right? At the same time, you're seeing on the other side, you're seeing the true colors of groups of individuals that, you know, they keep putting roadblocks and their commitment seems to be to defend criminals.
So Mexico's president just came out in defense of Venezuela's dictator, saying he's not part of some criminal empire, which, as far as I'm concerned, tells you all you need to know about those who are aligned against the idea of taking out these cartels. And what nobody's talking about is if these cartels do get taken out, it'll be the end of Mexico and some of these other countries as we know it. But not in the way most people think. You see, these cartels get rich off the US border in more ways than one. Not just by smuggling contraband, but also by smuggling illegal immigrants, which earned them $13 billion in 2024, something which also greatly helps the Mexican government at the exact same time. Because if
Yeah, it's convenient how that all works, right? Again, you're talking corruption within the government of Mexico at that point, and it's entrenched. That's the thing. I really don't think you can get rid of it. I think without a complete sweep of the board, I don't see how you could root out every corrupt member within the Mexican government. I think it just runs too deep within the police force, within the military, within the actual federal system, provincial systems itself. It's there, you know what I'm saying? Because they profit off of it. You know, it's one of their biggest exports is the drug trade, the illegal trade into the U.S. Right? This has been known about. I feel like it shouldn't be news to anybody, right? No, it is what it is. But America wants to protect its borders, right? It doesn't serve, and I wish Canada, to an extent, would realize this, right? Importing millions upon millions of people, it's not proactive to the situation of your citizens, right? It's just exacerbating the situations that are already present in your nation. When you add millions more people on top of what's already going on, it doesn't help. You know what I'm saying? The American people, I guess, have voted that in, right? And that's, you know, it's good to see some common sense kind of shine through in that regard, right? But I don't know, because it is ethically, it's a weird conversation to have. Like, are you going to go into another nation to root this out? Well, you know, if it's directly affecting your nation to the degree it is and has been for decades, is it unreasonable? It's the same thing with Israel and Hamas in a sense, right? Is it unreasonable? You know, is it awful? Sure, but is it unreasonable? I don't know. You know, it's a good question, right? I'm not going to fucking answer it for you guys, right? That's up to everybody to decide for themselves, of course, but you know, damn.
Which also greatly helps the Mexican government at the exact same time. Because if someone is poor and can't provide for themselves, they are no longer Mexico's responsibility once they cross the US border, winding up in a sanctuary state like California.
Yeah,
where
that's
they
another
get
thing.
free healthcare and are protected from being turned over to ICE if they get arrested. On top of that, it's reported that the Mexican cartels have infested every level of their country's government, which explains why their military can't ever seem to stop these criminals who've dominated swaths of land just south of our border for decades. Which brings us to the real...
Again, it would be very easy for Mexico to send their reserves or their active military up there to patrol their border, as they should. You know, I feel like border patrol for any nation is very important. Canada, for a few decades now, hasn't really agreed with that. You know, I'm willing to admit that. You know, it's true. You know, we haven't. It's sad, but it's true. If they did their part, it would absolutely be doable, but they're not, you know, and there's reasons for that. Again, they're getting kickbacks. Why would they, right? There's absolutely no reason for them to stop this when they are making a profit from it. And I have to say too about the sanctuary cities, the sanctuary states in America, that's Canada, but everywhere, you know, and that, like, that's radical to a lot of Canadians even, you know what I'm saying? Like, that's not just like tolerated by all of us. Don't think that it is, right? But that's what our federal government is going for, right? So it is what it is, right? It is what it is.
Swaths of land just south of our border for decades. Which brings us to the real reason the Mexican government and some of these other countries' governments are totally against the idea of the U.S. doing what they've promised.
Trying to be very neutral in this video.
Never seemed to accomplish. The power structure in these countries depends on an alliance with a criminal underworld that's grown to proportions most people don't even understand. However, getting rid of these gangsters would actually be a good thing thing for many law-abiding citizens, like those in Mexico who just want to provide for themselves and their families without living under the fist of the criminal underworld pillaging their society. And ours
absolutely.
in America to a degree most people are not even aware of.
Yes.
How much influence do you think the Mexican cartels have in the city you currently live in? I want to show you the map. Look at this one here. They are coming to a city near you.
You
Really?
think these cartels are just content
Wow.
with running Mexico? No, they want to run your neighborhood, my neighborhood, your backyard, your town, your legislature, you name it. And that's because criminal empires, they don't stop growing unless you stop them, which, as you're about to see, is the plan.
And it's not just the wall anymore. Trump ordered the kill shot. The days of local busts and random motels, they were fun, but that's Breaking Bad stuff. Trump wants to take the fight to El Chapo's front yard.
We're talking about sending military forces to fight against the cartels in Latin America. Do you think it's worth sending our forces, our U.S. forces there to take this on?
Cartels where?
Central Latin America.
Well, Latin America's got a lot of cartels. We want to protect our country. We have to protect our country. We haven't been doing it for 4 years. And we love this country like they love their countries. We have to protect our country. So, we're playing a tough game.
According to the New York Times, behind the scenes, Trump...
Again, it's the case of if the Mexican government was willing to be proactive on their own situation, there wouldn't be a need for this at the end of the day, right? That's what it is, and they haven't. So again, I really can't blame America in this situation, and I don't know, I could be wrong, I don't want to misspeak. You guys had a policy during World War II times. I'm not saying during World War II or before. I don't know the exact. I think it was called the Monroe policy, was it not? And that was a policy which allowed American intervention in Latin America, within North America, within any, I guess, any country that they thought there was a problem or a threat to America in. I don't know if that was a real thing. I don't know if that went away. Somebody let me know the specifics of that. But again, I think America has always been proactive on issues towards their country that they think are issues towards their country. You guys were involved in shit fucking across the world for decades, right? But your closest neighbor on the south there, and this is what's happening, right? The cartels are a massive problem. And the unfortunate part is the civilian cost of it all, right? Like, citizens in Mexico don't deserve that shit, A lot of them are good people. There's a lot of good people there, and that's not every, it's not every Mexican, it's not every Latino, right? That's the thing I think people need to remember, right? Is issues like this, it allows for dehumanization of a certain group of people, but that isn't the case, right? There's a lot of people out there that they're fine people, right? Fine individuals, but this is an issue that is happening, realistically speaking, within their country, within this group of people. So it needs to be dealt with. That's all it is, right? In the most neutral way possible. That's all it is.
We're playing a tough game.
According to the New York Times, behind the scenes, Trump's moving all the pieces into place to pull this off.
So what does he mean by pieces? Well, for months now, U.S. drones have been flying over Mexico, surveilling their territory. We know exactly where these cartels are, what they're up to.
Oh,
and
yeah.
in many cases, we know that information before the Mexican government knows it, because they don't seem to want it.
They don't give a fuck.
The purpose of flying drones over Mexico is being done to secure our border, not to invade Mexico. However, that may soon change, as their government, for some reason, has failed to take these criminals out on their own like they've promised. And since the greatest military in the history of the world knows exactly where the bad guys are camping out, it's almost a foregone conclusion that there will be some action in the near future to stop them from committing crime and hurting people.
Mexico's got a big problemo.
Yes, but it has nothing to do with Mexican
Oh, it
territory.
doesn't?
It has to do with their country. It does not involve our territory.
So it would be within the United States?
Within the United States.
You kidding me?
El Presidente
I don't know about that.
doesn't comprehend that.
Right, so you have a gang of criminals who
I don't know about that one.
have a base in your country, but for some reason that's an American-made problem. That is such a misguided talking point.
Yeah.
What a scam idea that is. The idea that cartels exist because of America and American corruption. If that's the case, how do these guys have a safe house where they can fly drones over our country repeatedly without any worry of law enforcement breaking down the door and arresting people while they try to exploit every potential weakness they see here? And why is it when these criminals commit crime in America, they always seem to escape, traveling back across the border before the good guys can catch them, with no Mexican soldiers waiting on the other side to do anything?
That's the thing. That's the absolute piss off where I can see the Trump administration and a lot of Americans having, right? It's the absolute lack of, these people got back across the border, nothing was fucking done about it. They just got away scot-free. No, these are foreign nationals that invaded our country. That is what it is. If they're crossing the border, committing a crime, committing an act of violence in any degree, home robbery, whatever it is, I don't care. And then they're fleeing back across the border and nothing is being done proactively to stop this. Yeah, that's not tolerable. Like, plain and simple, it just isn't. I don't know what to say. And in Canada, like, that's thankfully, and again, a lot of Canadians are fucking salty we have you guys to the south, but I'm thankful, right? Thank God we have a country that for the most part has some common sense to it. You know what I mean? I'm not going to say I agree with America on every issue, right? I'm not going to say that, right? Because I feel like that's democracy. I feel like, you know, there has to be some pushback in a degree. I'm very, very neutral. I'm gonna give America, you know, a pat on the back where it deserves it. I'm not gonna be one of these staunch anti-American, because America is a fucking great country. I'd rather live in America, you know, plain and simple. That doesn't mean I can't disagree with certain aspects of it, right? And I think America too is one of these great nations where different states are allowed to have their own laws and they're allowed to operate kind of how they see fit based upon the democracy of that state. I think that's awesome. You know, it's not really. It happens here in Canada, but to much less an extent. That's for sure. You know, certain provinces have different laws and what have you, but you don't see it to the same extent by any means.
The good guys can catch them with no Mexican soldiers waiting on the other side to do anything. That's a little weird, isn't it?
But this is a tremendous step they're taking.
All right, so they could seize some guys off the field and bring them here and put them on trial. Could they also just drone strike these cartel bad guys right in their backyard?
That's pretty.
You know, that's a lawyer question, but I'm going to give you the common sense answer.
Yes,
if
they should.
Cartels are in the United States and the MS-13 and Trendaragua gangs are, why can't we their leaders just the same way President Trump pointed out we took care of Soleimani?
That would be an imminent threat, right? That's an imminent threat to the life and well-being of the American citizenry.
He's 100% right. And these cartels, these are not being run by people who have the best interest of anyone except themselves at heart. No, they don't exist for the benefit of the Mexican people. No. Perhaps the Mexican government, but certainly not their own people, nor people in America. And if you get rid of these criminal organizations, you give the people of Mexico the opportunity to take back their country. And you know something? If there's any military action in Mexico, it will not be a prolonged conflict. And after a few highly publicized, successful operations, the border is gonna go quiet almost immediately. The message will be received that if you wanna be a criminal, you better take your crimes somewhere else. And these thugs, they would do just that.
Absolutely.
And again, I don't know why that's a hard concept for people to understand. Like, people hear that and they're like, oh my God. Like, I get it, because it is, you are conducting military ops over a foreign nation. That foreign nation has known about this issue for years, right? And there needs to be a deadline on this. Like, this can't keep going on. We can't keep watching you fucking just not do anything about it. That's what it is, right? I agree. Like, this should not be a radical proposition, nor should it be a radical conclusion to an issue this large, right, of this magnitude. What the cartels are doing is ruining nations. That's true, right? Drugs, you know. And again, I'm pretty libertarian when it comes to that regard. I don't really care, right? If you, within your own means, feel that you should be able to do a narcotic, sure, do it. I don't care what you do on your property in your own time, right? I have a problem with people doing it openly on the fucking streets, you know, because it's the same fucking law we have with, like, the tobacco law, right? You can't smoke on the street. Why should you be able to smoke meth on the street? That doesn't make any fucking sense. You know what I'm saying? It's just shit like that. Basic common sense shit. Like, you know, but if you want to do it in your own house once a month, I don't give a fuck. Go ruin your life. That's up to you, right? But I don't think, and that's the issue with a country with socialized healthcare, is we're paying for that when they fuck themselves up. That's my issue, right? That's where I start to have problems, right? All these people fucking themselves up on the street. My money paying for it, right? That's what it is. right? Not to get off topic. Anyway,
crime somewhere else.
This is going to be an
And
off-topic
these
video,
thugs,
tangent
they would do
video. Sorry,
just
guys.
That.
Absolutely. And I think the
you know me, I
rationale
talk.
we use for
I try to be
other
neutral,
terrorists
but
we've through multiple administrations, Barack Obama still, I think, holds the record for the number of drone strikes, including one U.S. citizen. So I think President Trump deciding that these guys who are definitely running people with human trafficking, those are things that I think all of America can look at and say, we don't need to allow that. And anything we do to them is probably justified at this point.
No, the Mexican president,
that's the thing. These criminal organizations have been able to do this, and they've been able to do it from the safety of Mexico. Mexico could take action against this, but they won't for some reason. Does that mean the Mexican leadership hopes Trump does something to get rid of these criminal organizations while they publicly condemn it? Will that help them? Or do they prefer to just sit back and wait and see what happens because they've got no other choice than to condemn U.S. actions? These are big questions. And another big question is what exactly would happen to Mexico if these cartels and the illegal immigration operations they help facilitate across the U.S. border disappear? After all, if all of the individuals in sanctuary states like California getting free healthcare were somehow, once again, the responsibility of the Mexican government, what would that do to their economy? And is there potentially a financial incentive for keeping these cartels in power, hoping that in 4 years the U.S. border will reopen and business as usual can continue? But what's fascinating is even as we talk about all of the damage
business as usual is crazy
in America, it's recently come out there they're doing quite a lot of damage in Mexico too. They're afraid of nobody but themselves.
In the Sinaloa cartel, some of Mexico's most powerful criminal organizations are now expanding their criminal operations into a wide range of violent and high-profit crimes. CJNG and the Gulf cartel are now directly involved in stealing crude oil from Mexico's state-owned Pemex. That crude oil is then smuggled across the Texas border and sold on the black market, a scheme so large that the U.S. Treasury recently sanctioned 26 entities in connection to it.
Crazy.
La Familia Michoacana has also expanded their operations to include illegal mining and targeting and extortion of mining companies across Guerrero and Michoacan. The group is also smuggling weapons across the Guatemala-Mexico border, giving them access to additional arms and influence. The Sinaloa.
So this cartel, which Mexico says is America's problem, by the way, look at what they're doing in Mexico that nobody's talking about. Here you've got a state-owned oil company.
And before he gets into it, the Sinaloa cartel, I think everybody has heard of that by now, right? It's, if you're talking about crime organizations, it's one of the biggest ones, right? They're heavily armed, heavily organized. They have been for a number of years. They're a multi-billion-dollar, probably cartel. And they've been allowed to roam free in Mexico for years, right? Completely uncontested. They've basically monopolized, I believe it's northern Mexico, the entire border zone of Mexico. They completely monopolized it. They don't really have any other cartels to compete with in that area because they fucking killed them all, or amalgamated them, whatever have you, right? To whatever means. Yeah, they've been an issue for years and nothing's been done about it. So to proactively stop this, and they are basically, I can see why they're almost called a terrorist organization, because they operate like one, you know. They are a cartel. These are the same guys that were sticking bodies in fucking in vats of acid and shit like that, you know. Like, these are the same guys, you know. Don't get that twisted. They're the same guys that, you know, they're chopping arms off and leaving torsos on the street as warnings and shit. They're the same people, you know. Let's not get it twisted. And now they're like they're essentially armed as if they're a paramilitary. It's pretty insane shit, to be honest.
They're doing in Mexico that nobody's talking about. Here you've got a state-owned oil company, which should exist for the benefit of Mexico itself. And what are these guys doing? They're stealing the oil and selling it on the black market to criminals. And why are they doing this? Well, the U.S. border is closed. Their smuggling business, bringing illegal immigrants into our country, isn't what it used to be. And since everything these guys have to do to survive must be criminal, that's one of their requirements, now they're just plundering their own people. Something they've been doing for a long time, controlling an entire country who never voted for them or elected them, but is totally defenseless in the face of their tyranny.
Mexican president, she's played nice so far on trade, but it's a big no bueno, she says, if we start launching direct action into her territory. It's not even really her territory. I guess technically it is, but the cartels control almost that entire country. What does that do to Mexico?
Yeah, I mean, that is not her decision. You know, she's the one who runs it.
Again, if it's her territory, deploy the fucking troops. Deploy the fucking troops and see what happens. Why not? Why don't you do it? It's that easy of a like, you have the power to do this. You have the power to stop it. You have a power to appease America in this instance, and you're just simply restraining yourself from doing it. It's either she wants America to do something while she actively denounces America for the actions taken, which is going to probably make her popularity in Mexico, I'd assume, rise, at least to them, right? Unless the Mexican people can see through that, right, to a degree. Or, you know, again, she wants it to happen and she wants to condemn America on the world stage, make America look bad for this. Again, I feel like, you know, maybe leaders in foreign nations will be like, oh my God, but I feel like the average person is going to look at this and be like, yeah, I mean, get rid of them. Like, why? Like, again, any foreign leader that's denouncing getting rid of cartels, right, that are actively plundering a nation, not only for its national wealth, but now other nations' wealth, no. And they've been fueling the drug trade in your country for how many years? It's an issue all around the world. Like, I don't see why anyone would be opposed to this, especially leadership wise. It just doesn't make sense to me. Maybe I'm wrong. Sorry to talk a lot and pause a lot in this video, guys. But again, a lot of thoughts on this one. I don't know. There's a lot to say about this issue. You know, it's a controversial perhaps, but I don't know. I don't see an issue. Like, again, go for it. I say get rid of them. Yeah, clean house.
Yeah, I mean, that is not her decision. You know, she's the one who runs a country that allows that.
Clearly,
to
it's
happen.
not.
So if she wants to go ahead and try and tell President Trump we can't do that, we're going to do what we need to, and she's going to go ahead and face the consequences.
That's true.
That's something they've allowed for far too long.
They have, and you know something? The entire world is worse off because of it. Not just Mexico, not just the United States.
Thank you.
But these criminals, they export their crime everywhere they can. They team up with criminals in other parts of the world to do other things that destabilize law-abiding societies everywhere. And there are some people who think action should have been taken sooner across our border with Mexico instead of waiting for the false promises of their government, which included a massive crackdown that has never happened, which is why we're even having this conversation. And fascinatingly, this article says that according to one businessman from Sinaloa, where a massive cartel operates, he says the cartels have always been present, but it was isolated. And if you were not involved with them, you could live an honest, peaceful life. Those days are over, he lamented. You simply cannot avoid or escape the cartel's presence, whether it's violence, extortion, theft. And he's calling on President Trump to come in and save his country, something his own government has refused to do. And the excuse is that this is an American-made problem, that the cartels operating out of safe swaths of territory just across the U.S. border in Mexico only exist because of the American government. This entire viewpoint is what progressives say and think about America.
Yeah, I don't know what the hell that's supposed to be. Nobody's making these multi-billion-dollar cartels do what they do and operate in the way that they operate, ruin the lives of the people they clearly don't care about. Nobody in America is forcing that hand, right? It's the Mexican government that has just allowed it to go rampant for years. You know, literally gang warfare on the streets in the countrysides, right? These gangs, these cartels buying for ownership of land, for profits, right? For whatever have you, right? For territory, businesses, yeah. And this is what you get, right? You get a paramilitary organization that's worth multi-billions, exports multi-billions per year. To the world in terms of their drug trade, in terms of the crimes that they're able to commit and get away with. Yeah. And this is the result of all that. I don't know why this is shocking. I don't know how people are defending it, how people are blaming America for this type of shit. Like, it's no, like, plain and simple.
This entire viewpoint is what progressives say and think about America and the open border.
I don't get that.
They always want to say that it's America's fault, that criminality is something the U.S. created and now wants to stamp out, and that all of the efforts you see happening in America from ICE and this whole idea of military action in the country of Mexico to stamp out these criminals is wrong and just represents another example of American overreach, because these individuals feel that America is is the problem in the world. Just look at the protests, which many say are funded in part by foreign organizations who don't want America cracking down and bringing law and order back to its shores at all. At the same time, we find out that these criminal organizations, they don't just commit crime in America. Yes, this is their biggest market, something a wide open border allowed them access to for the last 4 years, but that's now over. However, they're also stealing from their own people. They're committing crime in other areas of Central and South America, and it's not that these criminal organizations prefer to be isolated. There have been reports of Tren de Aragua and MS-13 gang members working on behalf of cartels to further exploit people once they wind up at asylum shelters in sanctuary cities like New York, places where these gang members end up setting up shop, where for 4 years they watched new populations of quote-unquote asylum seekers arrive at these buildings, and afterwards they went about putting these individuals to work in some capacity. You can join up with them and steal things. You can sell things on the streets, but one way or the other, you are paying off the debts these smugglers and cartels gave you when you crossed the border without permission with their help. Nobody's benefiting from this at all, except the corrupt who want these processes to continue and hope that in 4 years they start doing so once again. What do you think about that? Would getting rid of these dangerous cartels and organizations be a good thing in the countries where they operate, the countries they control with their criminality? Let me know. Thank you so much for watching. I will see you in the next video.
Yeah, interesting issue. Again, I don't see the problem with America being proactive on the situation. Again, it's been a problem for years. Mexico has had the opportunity to deal with it. They have not. They actively show their teeth, or lack of teeth, I guess I should say, their gums when it comes to this issue, right? They don't deploy their military. They don't deploy their National Guard. I don't know what the reserves, whatever you would call it. And I would argue, again, they want active duty military for this issue, because again, you're fighting paramilitary forces that do have training. That's the thing. They have gotten to a point where they are actually an armed military. They can equate to that, essentially. They're not going to equate to the US military, of course, especially not in terms of like Air Force or anything like that. But in terms of ground infantry warfare, they're pretty much just as armed as the modern soldier, if not more, depending on the country, right? Just saying, right? They got the money, they got the funding behind it, right? They got equipment. They're not pushovers anymore. It's not like it's just fucking a bunch of shirtless gangbangers firing Mac 10s out of the back of a fucking like pickup truck. Like, no, like they're kitted up. They got plate carriers, they got helmets, they got modern M4 AK variants, right? They got armored cars, they got HMGs. You know, it's been allowed to go on for so long that's what we're dealing with now. And they're a worldwide entity at this point. So yeah, I don't know. I agree with these points. I'd say yeah, do what you have to do. Yeah, if you guys enjoyed this reaction, make sure you guys hit that like button, subscribe for more content from me, of course. Leave your recommendations down in the comments below. And big thank you to all of our members, all of our Hastati, our Triarii, our Principe, Dagenhart, and of course our Praefectus and Hobbit. I appreciate you guys. You guys inspire me to make more content for you guys every single day. With that, guys, this has been Centurion. I'll see you guys on the next one. Peace, guys.